All right, we are live here, folks. Another episode of Let's Talk Lake County. I'm your host, David Rich. Sorry about the lighting. It's turns out it gets dark at 4 o'clock now. So so I need to buy some real lights. Anyway, I got a special guest on tonight, Matty Winiarz, a political science major. His mother, Hillary, just ran for Lake County Board. Unfortunately, did not win. But I will say, in her defense, she barely lost, which I
Yes.
thought is a huge testament to her efforts. And she was on the show a week or so ago, talked about all she did, and it was amazing, her efforts and what she did. Fabulous, fabulous lady. I'm really looking forward to perhaps working with her, but definitely to getting to know her better in the future. So thank you. So you came highly recommended from she, and so that is why Matty is here. And he's a political science major at American University in Washington, D.C., right in the thick of it. So having, getting your poli sci major, your degree, makes you, I would say, above the fray credible, to speak on politics and elections and that sort of thing. Yeah, what's up?
Well, I like to think so. Election night was, just now, and since we're in DC, everyone was tuned real close into the election. I personally was watching from, I want to say 5:30 p.m. to maybe 4:30 a.m. Like I sat through the whole thing with some breaks in between, and that seems to be the common thing that everyone was reacting to it one way or another. But yeah, being in DC gives me a lot of good opportunities. I got to see a lot of things up close. I can take 40 minutes, go down to the White House whenever I want to, just take a look. It's real nice being down here, and it gives me a real good education in this topic too.
Yeah, no, that's great. So real quick, just give me a background. Like, how did you get involved in politics and why?
Well, politics, and especially like presidential history, if we want to go even more niche, that's just always kind of been a fascination of mine. It was kind of my introduction into the world of academia to start with. My mom, on car rides home, she would like quiz me on presidents, like which one was which came after which, and it kind of just built from there. And by the time we got to 2016, I'm in sixth grade roughly. And that election happens, and it kind of just even exploded from there. Once Donald Trump was elected the first time, it kind of became hard for me not to pay attention. And then college time rolls around, time to pick a major, a place to go, and politics seemed the most interesting, like what I would want to devote my time to the most, and I'm very happy with that decision, volatile as it sometimes is. And here I am.
And here we are. All right. Well, that's cool. Well, I'm glad that somebody with a head on their shoulders, like as such, that you have is involving themselves in politics, because we need more wisdom in politics. How's that?
You're not wrong.
No, I'm not. I have a philosophy degree, so I study wisdom. So like I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in your future with your career. So, all right, well, let's get to it, man. Let's. What do you think? Give me some of your insights and positions on what happened Tuesday. I mean, it was interesting to say the least. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I'm a like I said, I'm a political science major, so I'm studying this, and from that perspective, I can try to be impartial. Then on the other hand, I'm a Democrat. I worked with the Democratic Party of Lake County over the summer. Did work there. Oh, I'm very sorry. There's a knock on the classroom. Give me one second.
That's cool. Bring somebody else on. There's a comment section, folks, on the top right there, for viewers. If you'd like to comment, ask questions, comment, give brief stories of your own, that'd be cool. Everything good?
I evidently picked the wrong classroom to do this in. If you would give me 15 seconds.
Yeah. He's changing classrooms, folks. It's over here. Again, comment section on the right. Go ahead and say whatever you'd like. No censorship. Say whatever you think. Anybody else watching who's ever interested in coming on the show, if you live in Lake County, or even if you're from Lake County, or if what you want to talk about is relevant to Lake County, Illinois, please message me, David Rich, RYCH. You can find me there. Picture of me and my friend Jim in front of a big dinosaur at the Field Museum. Can't miss it. So, turn here shortly. I can hear him.
All right, we're going to try this, and I'm going to switch to headphones. That is my bad.
No, that's okay.
That would be free. So whoopsie daisies.
That's okay. I've suffered worse things in my life. I'll be okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, and I can hear you, so we are good to go. All right, so coming at this from the perspective of a poli-sci major, which is good. It's informative. It's informed your position, which is good. Now, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can.
I can hear you just fine too, so we're good. Yeah. So from a political science major's point of view, there's so much to analyze here. Like,
yeah.
Why it went the way it did, as much as it did, is a whole nother subject. Yeah. A lot going on there. So yeah, from your point of view, what do you think?
Well, I think that a lot of mistakes were made in a lot of different places by the Democratic Party. Some were small, some were big. And I think they're only really that visible in retrospect at this point.
That's the problem with losing. You only know what you did wrong after you've lost.
Yep. I think there's the inclination for Democrats especially is going to be to point a lot of fingers in a lot of different places.
Oh yeah, people are blaming Biden for not dropping out sooner. Also, they didn't. Sanders will say you didn't attend to the working class well enough. So the people are saying she focused too much on negatives about Trump instead of positives about her policies. And yeah, okay.
Yeah. From my 2 cents, I would say that Biden's mistake was running again in the first place. He marketed himself as a transitional president, which would probably imply a one-termer. And when he went for another term, that threw a lot of things out of balance. He's not a young guy, and it was very evident. We saw that.
It's blatant. That's the problem. Like, I don't know. Like, the guy can barely move.
Yeah.
And it's just it's noticeable. And I like Joe Biden as a president. Don't get me wrong, but
me too.
His time is done, and they should have known that well earlier than they did.
Yeah. And I think it's. I think it was a rough place for Democrats as a party, because if Biden wants to run, it was going to be kind of hard to say no. They said no eventually, but until then, everyone just has to say no. He's not too old. He's good. He's fine. Which is a hard thing to do, to just try to put that aside. So I think that was Biden's issue. I think the larger issue, though, was just the strategy employed by Kamala Harris's campaign. It seemed great at the time. There was a lot of energy behind it, but it wasn't enough in not enough time, unfortunately. Probably not enough emphasis on the economy. Turns out working class people living paycheck to paycheck might not necessarily care about a lot of the threats to democracy and such that she was campaigning on.
Yeah, it's as what's his name, Carville? What's his first name? Bill? No, what's his name? Carville?
James Carville.
James Carville. Yeah, it's the economy, stupid. Like that's that famous saying that he coined. It's always the economy first, which is. Yep. We could spend hours upon hours talking about like the relationship of like the federal government to the American economy and mostly the lack thereof. There are certain things that the federal government can do to kind of push an economy in a certain direction, but the measurements there are almost negligible. It's very difficult to do that because the best you have is correlation, and there's a huge difference between correlation and causation. right? Like even the Feds, raising rates to like, and then see, look, the economy's doing better. Well, does it? Those two things have to do with each other? We'll never actually know because the economies are such massively complex systems. It's almost impossible to tell if that had anything to do with this. Almost impossible.
We look at the metrics, and technically inflation's down, and the economy's doing well technically, but people don't feel it. They go to the grocery store, and the prices they're paying are too high. It doesn't matter to them that the inflation is 2.8%, 2.4%, something like that. That doesn't translate to everyday life. So the Democrats can try to say all they want. Oh, inflation's down, the economy's good. That might not be wrong, but the voters aren't feeling it.
Right, exactly. The kitchen table topics kind of thing. If it doesn't, like, I don't notice it in my day-to-day life, to me, it's not happening. And when grocery prices and gas prices are high, those are like two essential things that we need nowadays. Food first, gas second, but you're not gonna be able to go to the grocery store without the gas. And especially the gas prices, people that, you need gas. And, there was a couple of years ago where I was dropping, like, cause I do a lot of driving for my jobs, and I was dropping like $125 a week in gas. It was ridiculous. But I also know that the president has nothing to do with gas prices. So I don't fault presidents for that, but people don't, like you said, if they don't see it or they do see the negative, that's it. That's how they decide.
Yeah, if they feel like they need to change, they're going to vote for the change. And unfortunately, they saw Kamala as an extension of Biden and not a change. She didn't communicate that well enough. Right.
Yeah. So I don't. We'll see what happens. I mean, there is no evidence to support the supposed fact that Republican in presidential offices are commandeer a better economy than Democrats do. It's like Carter was a Democrat and the economy was terrible. There was an oil shortage and stuff like that, and Carter was a fabulous human being. Don't get me wrong. But we look at the 80s and go, oh, look, Reagan, Republican, great, thrust in our economy. Therefore, Republicans are better at running an economy than Democrats are. Well, no, economy was, remember Clinton, balanced the budget for the first time in like a bajillion years, and stuff, and all sorts of great things happened during his two terms. Barack Obama gets in there though, and you have the mortgage shortage or crisis and stuff like the housing crisis, and the stock market drops from whatever it was 12,000 down to like 5, so like everybody freaks out. And rightly so. That's a problem. A lot of people suffered under those things. But again, the causal connection dynamic between a president and the economy on prices is very slim, if not non-existent.
Yeah, it's not direct at all, and that's hard to communicate to people. A lot of people just think that the president completely controls the economy. People think that it's Biden's fault for the economy we're in. He might have helped it in some places, might have not in others, but it's more complicated than that. That's a very hard thing to explain on a campaign trail.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you're talking like stats and math and probability theory and expectations and confidence intervals and all sorts of stuff. Like if you want to get to the logic of it. It's really tough. But it frustrates me that people like make that the number one issue when I don't even know that it should be an issue at all, or at least way down the list. Talking about human rights protections and stuff like that. That's something that because you can actually put those into law. Really good protections of different groups of people and classes and stuff like that. People in this country treat the president like a monarch, like a king, and they think that he can just wave the scepter and like poof, make things happen. And that isn't even close to being true. Congress has the vast majority of the power. Most of the focus, our focus should be on our congressional and senatorial candidates.
That's very true.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, that's another big issue in that our Congress is completely dysfunctional at the moment. This is one of the least productive Congresses to ever exist. If I'm not mistaken, there was a point where they were the number one most or least productive Congress ever. They're deadlocked. They're not getting things done. And that part of that is the way Congress works. It's supposed to be hard to get things done, but they're so deadlocked that they think they can't do anything. And so that translates to not getting a whole lot done, which looks bad on the president. It looks bad for the congressman. Everything is so hyper partisan that they're really stuck, the congressmen, in how they can talk about these things and where they can put their votes. It's unfortunately it's really rooted in partisanship right now. It's caused a lot of issues.
Yeah, I tell you what, I fear, I think a bit more than Donald Trump is Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House.
Mm-hmm.
Or leader of the Senate or whatever. I think Speaker of the House. And because the Speaker of the House sets the agenda for Congress. They kind of put whatever they want, not completely, but to a large measure, they put whatever they want in front of Congress, and that's what they have to deal with. That's a lot of power. Some people would argue that the Speaker of the House has the most amount of power of any individual in the federal government because of that. There's like, hey, this is what we're going to talk about and vote on. And if he doesn't want to include things, he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
Right. That's frightening.
It is. He's also third in line to the presidency. He's right at, he's going to be right after J.D. Vance. It is, of course, assuming that the Republicans get the 4 more seats they need for control.
There's still elections pending, right? So the balance of the House has not been determined yet, correct?
It hasn't. The Republicans, I checked right before I hopped on here. They need 4 more seats for the majority, and I'm not sure when those will be counted, but looking at like the little electoral map where they shade in red or blue, in very basic terms, most of the ones left are shaded red. So it's very much looking like the Republicans are going to get Senate, House, presidency, and they have the court. So it looks like they're going to have the everything.
That's the scariest part. Like, I mean, at least, if Democrats could have controlled one of the 2 chambers, letting, okay.
Yep.
I feel better. But no, man, that's a lot of power, but my only hope there is that there are enough reasonably minded Republicans left that are in these chambers and positions that they're not going to go crazy. I mean, Michael John, like, okay, well, let me ask you this. I mean, because the reason Mike Johnson scares me the most is, I mean, he's very articulate, very intelligent person, but he's just got this whole, like, weirdo right-wing Christian thing going on, and not trying to, denigrate anybody's religious beliefs, but I mean, this is like psycho stuff. What do you think about Project 2025? Do you think that Trump was honest in that he does not deal with that? It's not a part of it. Yeah, I mean, because, well, first of all, he's just a liar all the time. Secondly, like people all that surround him are the architects of Project 2025.
Yes.
I was a member of the Green Party up until a couple months ago. I left for a multitude of reasons, but one of them is because I knew I wasn't going to vote for Jill Stein because of Project 2025. I was going to vote for Harris. And you're not allowed to do that if you're on the Green Party because they're kind of like left-wing MAGA. But I mean, I like them for a lot of reasons, but they're a little cultish in themselves. But what do you think about Project 2025? Do you think it's a real threat?
I think Project 2025 is very real. After the election was conceded, I believe, determined, whatever word you want to use, there were a lot of right-wing talking heads, politicos that tweeted out things like, haha, we lied, Project 2025 was real, you fell for it, things like that. So granted, those people aren't the president, those are just people who voted for the president, but he's already been talking, Trump has, about implementing his federal government restructuring, where everyone in the federal government will basically be a Trump loyalist.
Right.
That's, I mean, there's lots to not like about Project 2025. That's the scariest part for me, since I'm hoping to get a job in the federal government. But then all of these things, abortion and LGBTQ rights, these are all things that were on the ballot with Project 2025, and all signs are pointing to him lying about saying that that's not true.
Right.
People are scared because of that. That was a big thing for most of Democrats. That was a lot of their number one issue. and I guess all we can do right now is just hope that Trump is more moderate than people think he is.
Right. I was thinking that the other day. I'm like, well, maybe he's just a lot more sane than the super crazy people that are on his side, and maybe he'll keep them in check.
Yeah, it's a bad day when
right.
when the silver lining is, oh, maybe he will keep it to the states. Right.
Well, I've been listening to interviews on NPR from people like one from the was it DHS talking about like the migration issue and like the mass deportation and stuff like that, because some people are like, well, legally he can't even really accomplish that. There's too much bureaucracy and checks and balances and stuff like that. And this guy's like, no, he can. He's like, watch within the first 3 weeks after his inauguration what happens. You're going to see like SWAT teams like invading places and hauling people away. And it's like I was thinking, I'm like, well, what happens when they start going into the churches and start taking away, undocumented people and stuff like that? Because that's going to cause a serious problem if they decide to do that.
Yeah, even though everyone hates bureaucracy, bureaucracy is a tried and true way of doing things. When you get rid of the bureaucracy, it becomes easier to get things done.
You streamline the power, the people in power, like they can just do anything.
Yeah. So if everyone that's in the federal government is a Trump yes man, he's going to be able to do whatever he wants. He'll be able to send SWAT teams into wherever. He'll be able to use federal force against protesters. He'll be able to do all sorts of stuff that the Constitution probably shouldn't be letting him do.
Right.
And then the Supreme Court's not going to say, no, the Supreme Court, slip of the tongue. The Supreme Court's not going to say, no, the Constitution doesn't say you can't do that, because he put like half of them there.
Oh, yeah. 6 out of 9. Well, he put half of them there. There are now 6 out of 9 that are conservative, right?
True, but then with Alito and Thomas probably retiring, they'll be probably replaced by Trump people, so that'll just make it worse.
Yeah. Supreme Court's a fascinating little sector of our federal government. I mean, just 9 people making decisions for 320 million. I don't know about that, but because we know the Constitution only means in effect, in legal effect, what the Supreme Court says it means.
That is true.
That's what it means. Okay, I mean, I can read it. I can read, and I will read it. I'm like, okay, it means this. But if the Supreme Court says, no, Dave, you're wrong, it means this, there isn't a damn thing I can do about that. They could be wrong all day about their interpretation, and it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Okay, because that becomes the law.
And they're wrong all the time. I mean, historically bad decisions, even going back 150 years ago to the
Dred Scott. Yep.
They get it wrong all the time, and then sometimes they get it right. They got it right with Roe v. Wade, and then now they got it wrong with repealing Roe v. Wade. Right. It goes back and forth. It depends on who's on the court. And right now, we're going to be locked with a conservative supermajority on the Supreme Court for a long time. And the Democrats are going to try to want to do term limits or expand the court. Those are their only options there. But with the numbers of the Republicans in the other branches, that's not happening anytime soon.
No, but that gives me a thought. Like maybe Biden, before he leaves, can expand the Supreme Court and put up who he wants.
Oh, I would love that.
That's an interesting idea. Like maybe he should do. Like I wonder if they're even like somebody in his a group up there is being like, expand the Supreme Court like right now. Add 5 people, make them all liberals, and we'll be fine.
I know a lot of people, myself included, are kind of hoping that Biden will go full dark Brandon and just do whatever he wants in these last 90 days here. Introduce abortion protection legislation. Not that that'll go anywhere, but still, thought that counts. Try to expand the Supreme Court. This campus is very liberal, so a lot of people here want an arms embargo to Israel. So a lot of people want him to do that. And theoretically, these are all things he could do with no consequences in the next 90 days. There's nothing to lose by him doing this.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, well, we'll see what he does. It goes dark. I like that. How much do you think, if you drew a pie chart of like reasons why people voted for Trump or didn't vote for Harris, like social issues have to do it with like the trans thing, males as females participating in sports and stuff like that. Do you think that, because I know some people, friends of mine, that are that's what really got them. Like they're done with it. They don't like it. It's weird to them, and they think that the president can just come in and like wave a wand and make it go away. That doesn't happen. But do you think like a lot of the more social issues, less economic, had a lot to do with this, or what part it had to do with this?
I think it did to an extent.
Yeah.
I think the social issues kind of worked as a smokescreen for the Trump campaign. They're able to throw all these social issues and say, look how weird this is, to people who don't understand it. And it masks the terrible economic policy. The trans people in sports thing, I know a couple of people who are passionate about that. Mm-hmm. To me, it's a non-issue. I think it's a very niche thing. Right. Most people day to day are not participating in sports. There's a very small number of people who are affected by that issue. And so while I'm not discounting people who care about it, I think the people who do care about it oftentimes don't have the medical, scientific, and social context that does go into that issue. And it's a nuance, it's complicated. Nothing's black and white, obviously, but the conversations that we spend on these issues are smokescreens for the larger issues going on, that the Trump people can say ooga booga and throw out something weird, and it makes the Harris campaign spend time addressing that, and I think that certainly played a large role in kind of distraction.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It is a non-issue on the federal level. It's an issue socially and morally, for sure. And I think that, like, my personal perspective on it is like, I will support them. Of course they will. I think you have the right to be who you want to be. Like I'm a pretty staunch individualist in a lot of ways. Nobody's going to tell me how I'm going to live. For sure. And then with the sports thing, though, it's like there's nothing about that I can do anything about or have anything to do about it. Let the people in those leagues, those areas, decide for themselves what they want to do.
I agree 100% with that.
Yeah, exactly. And that, if they decide to do it, great. If they decide not to do it, I don't think that's great, but that's okay. It's like 0.1% of the population, or maybe it's 0.01% of the population, like, is trans. It's a very, very small amount. And I don't want to disregard any individual. It's not important. I'm just saying, when you're dealing with federal national policy, you usually do the bigger issues, right?
That's true.
You keep your policies proportionate to the national issues, that kind of thing. Right.
I just saw today a clip of Trump saying something along the lines of, we're going to do legislation that says you can only be one of two genders assigned at birth.
See, that's just stupid. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it is, absolutely. On the one hand, that's extremely detrimental to transgender people, non-binary people. That's terrible for them. That would be a nightmare. But on the other hand, the people who aren't transgender, who are just heteronormative, cisgendered, how is that going to affect them? That's not going to help them. It's frustrating, quite frankly, because I'm an individual on the left. I care a lot about these issues. I have a lot of trans friends. And it really hurts to see them in so much pain because of these people that we elect.
Yeah, no, it's terrible.
And it just sucks that this is the legislation that we have to deal with. And this is what the majority of America voted for. And that's a very hard thing to grapple with. Yeah. And it's even harder to assess where it fits into the election and where that fits into why the Democrats lost, if at all.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah. What about immigration? Sorry. How do you think that? Do you think a lot of people spoke about it? Like that was? I mean, the first time he ran, he came down the stupid elevator, like talking about like how terrible Mexicans were, and it's been like his like main platform ever since. He had 4 years to deal with it. He didn't really do much. I mean, he did some stuff, but like, I mean, but and that itself is not like a Democrat or Republican issue. I mean, I guess as far as I understand it, Barack Obama deported more people than Trump did. I love Barack Obama. Don't get me wrong, but the numbers aren't as people think they are.
Yeah. When Trump was president, his immigration policy was flashy, I suppose you could say.
Okay.
His whole thing was, we're going to build the wall. Mexico was going to pay for it.
That didn't happen.
We built part of a wall, and Mexico paid for none of it.
Right.
And then you see back in the Trump presidency, there were the terrible images and terrible stories of the child separation, the kids in cages.
Oh, yeah.
And while I'm not sure of how effective his policies were at that time, it drew a lot of attention for bad reasons of, we have to stop this. We have to do a different way of doing this. And that didn't happen with the Biden administration. If anything, immigration became more of an issue. There was no overhaul. Things didn't get that much better. And suddenly you have a Republican talking point, since it didn't get better, of, oh, look how bad Biden screwed up immigration. That was that in the economy were Trump's primary attacks against both Biden and Harris in their respective debates, because it was a very visible issue that they could campaign on. In Texas, when Abbott, I believe, is the governor of Texas.
Yes, Craig Abbott.
When Abbott had the immigrants bust to sanctuary cities, which is a terrible thing, and it's gross on many levels.
Yeah.
But that is certainly one way of drawing attention to the issue. And if anything, if there's one thing Trump's good at, it's being flashy and it's getting attention.
That's true.
And he was able to build that attention, even though neither he nor Biden did great in any sense with immigration policy. Headway might have been made one way or the other, but it's a big issue. We need a system overhaul, and it's probably not going to come with Trump.
Yeah, for sure. It's just, and I have this bumper sticker that I made up a long time ago, and I think this is very central to the immigration issue. You read that?
Morality always trumps the. Oh, that's clever.
Yeah, which is true. When laws are not underpinned by moral reasoning or moral values, they're probably bad. Okay, laws are made to make people's lives better, safer, that kind of thing. Better. These are like value terms: better, safer. You don't take somebody's child away from them because you don't have a legal ID. That's stupid. That's ridiculous. Anyway. So yeah. All right. Economic gas. What about gas? What do you think? We talked about the economics and how they don't have that much power. But do you think, like, he wants to drill more? He keeps saying that. People hear that too. People also don't realize that Biden opened up new drilling areas, to the detriment of the environmentalists, for sure. But he still did it. Again, this is there's so many. I think one of the biggest problems is that people have these blinders on, these irrational expectations of what it means to be a Democrat, what it means to be a Republican. And right. That, all Democrats think this way and all Republicans think that way. That is simply not the case. Well, what do you think about things like petroleum and gas and going from fossil fuels to green climate change? Go ahead, speak to that.
Right. Well, I personally am all for any sort of not fossil fuel, solar, electric, all that stuff. I think we should get away from fossil fuels. Yes. That's, of course, easier said than done.
Yes.
I believe it was Biden, he shut down the Keystone Pipeline, and that plan, great for the environment. Big fan of that decision. Trump's probably going to bring it back and complete the Keystone Pipeline, that's going to be very bad for the environment. Then Trump's whole thing is drill, baby, drill, right? And that wound up being more or less the common position, because Harris, she stated her position as being pro-fracking. I don't think she personally is pro-fracking, but that is what she said her position was.
Well, Biden changed, like, even during his campaign time before he got elected. He was anti-fracking and then became pro-fracking.
Yeah, I think that's
nobody seems to know why.
I think that both Harris and Biden changed their positions there because they wanted their position to be what was the most popular in the swing states, Pennsylvania especially.
Yeah, that's gross too.
It is. That's that's not the certainly not the moral way to do positions.
No, it's not.
But it is also understandable. Pennsylvania is the most important state electorally for every election of the past however many years. Whoever has won Pennsylvania wins the presidency. That was the linchpin of pretty much every path to the presidency. So you got into that classic political debate of, well, maybe I can lie about this, but if I lie about this, then it'll let all the other good things happen, and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Which, on the one hand, that is gross, and on the other hand, it's practical. Obviously, it wasn't practical enough. It didn't work for her, and I think a lot of people would have preferred if she just stated her positions.
Right.
And I remember when she first started campaigning, that was a lot of people's complaints that she didn't say what her positions were. Why did you change your positions? And she said, "Oh, well, I listened to people." Okay. A lot of people didn't find that to be a satisfactory answer. And honestly, I think that was one of her bigger issues on the campaign trail as a whole, is that she tried to appeal to too many people at once all the time.
No.
But especially when it comes to drilling, fossil fuel use, fracking, that's a penalty there. And it's obviously Trump presidency is going to be bad for the environment. He wants clean air and clean water. Great, thanks. As for the rest, it's not looking great. And hopefully he just doesn't do too much damage and before the time that his presidency's up. And I guess
we have midterm elections in 2 years. I mean, that's kind of a light in the middle of the tunnel, if you will. So that could change.
That's very true. That is what I was telling myself on election night. As soon as I realized that Kamala was going to lose, like, okay, well, at least this will make it really easy in 2 years. Well, hopefully, anyway.
Right. Well, we'll see. Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to.
Yeah, because I think all the left-leaning or Democrats are kind of just assuming that Trump's presidency is going to be disastrous. In my opinion, it's very easy to see why. But there's always the chance that his policies wind up being good, that he does what he has sought out to accomplish. I doubt it, but there's a chance. And if that's the case, then Democrats were wrong there too. 2026, those midterms are going to be rough. But I believe the common belief now is that his policies are going to be disastrous, and it is going to make it really easy to pick up some seats in 2026. And then hopefully in 2028 as well. So silver linings, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. Here's to hoping, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. And like another thing that keeps me a bit optimistic is that, he already served one term. And so hopefully he's learned from, okay, I probably shouldn't do this, because it really upset a lot, that kind of thing. And maybe he's just a little more refined in his political reasoning right now, going into the second term. That's one thing I'm hoping for, but we'll see.
Me too.
It doesn't sound like it, but we'll see.
And it's so hard to tell based on the campaign that he run. It's so hard to tell if he had this really good strategy of being as random as possible to throw off the Democrats, or if he really is just that crazy. It's kind of hard to
Yeah, he
tell.
might just be like a maniacal genius underneath all that, buffoonery. He might just be
orange makeup.
Oh, that he's such a weird looking dude. But yeah, so who knows? He wrote The Art of the Deal, and you know that he said in The Art of the Deal, and he got this from the Nazis, by the way. You say something enough, and people believe it. And you can tell during his speeches and stuff, he's just repetitive. He says the same things over and over and over again. Some of them are so like just cockamamie ridiculousness. But like when he said, "Oh, I know more about the military than the generals do." Oh, like, oh, really? Oh, you do, huh? Stuff like he knows more about everything than anybody does. I mean, it's just like, okay.
Right. No, he learned all about the military after he dodged the draft.
After he dodged the
really
draft, yeah, because he had bone spurs. Yeah, okay, come on. No, it's because his daddy was rich, and that's why. Yeah, no. So, yeah, well, we'll see. If he succeeds, I think Barack Obama said this to him when he first won. He's like, your success is America's success. So hopefully, you do well.
I think that should be America's hope that he does well. But I think for what Harris got 48% of the popular vote, for 48% or more of America, people are scared. People have little faith that will happen.
Yeah.
And it's hard at this point in time with how the electoral map and how the Senate and House breakdowns are. It's very hard to do anything but just hope that he knows what he's doing to an extent.
What do you think about the Electoral College? Do you think we should get rid of it?
No.
Okay. Interesting. Go ahead.
It's one of those things that I think people complain about when it works weirdly. In 2016, it was easy to say, let's get rid of the Electoral College because Hillary won the popular vote by a pretty good margin, and it gave us Donald Trump. So obviously it seemed pretty flawed.
But that's happened like 4 or 5 times in American history. And I think up until that time, it's happened twice since I've been alive. And it was like twice before that in all of American history where it happened.
Yes.
So
John Quincy Adams and Rutherford B. Hayes, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. And then Hillary. No, wait, hold on. Who was before Hillary? Gore. Gore won the popular vote, and Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. So a total of 4 times, but twice in our lifetime, or my lifetime. Right. I'm a little bit older than you. But which is a staggering amount, like statistically, to have it happen that frequently in such a small duration of time. Because before that, again, it didn't happen for over like 100 years or something like that. Right. So people weren't bothered by it. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that there have been like over 700 attempts via Congress to get rid of it since the Constitution's inception, and it's never worked.
That sounds about right.
Sounds right.
I like the idea of getting rid of the Electoral College. It seems like such a great idea to just make it simple, just make it a popular vote. But then it's hard to say in 20 years, maybe the electoral map will have shifted astronomically, and then maybe we'll be thanking our lucky stars that we have it. If there was a world where California had 100 million people and it was ruled by a Nazi, obviously that extreme example. But every other state, if that was the case, would be so thankful that it's not directly proportional, because then California would determine everything. So I feel like the Electoral College is one of those things that it's easy to say we should get rid of, and there are merits to that argument. But in the grand scheme of things, I think it's there for a reason, and it's probably a good thing that we keep it. In this election, it didn't matter. In the last election, it didn't matter.
Right. The election before that did. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I mean, my main angst about of the Electoral College is, why is that the only elected office that has it? Again, the Congress has all the power. Like, why don't we have electoral colleges for like state senators or something like that, or stuff like that. I mean, they have more power than the president does. They can do just about, I mean, he has veto power and commander in chief, and he appoints some people. That's really about it. He as the face of the country, that he has more, I think, social impact than anything else. But that's another thing that I'm concerned about, is that like during his first term, like all the wackadoodles are going to come out of the woodwork and start plowing people down with their cars in Charlottesville and like all sorts of crazy. But there's already people saying, oh, to women, your body, my choice. That's going on everywhere. People are getting threats, and racist remarks are being made by people from Trump supporters merely because he won and stuff like that. And let's not forget the last election that David Duke, the former Grand Wizard of the KKK, supported Trump, and a lot of white supremacist groups did too. You need to ask yourself why that is, folks. Okay, yeah, it's a crazy time. It's crazy. We've been gone for 45 minutes, man. I could spend like 8 hours talking to you, but I don't want to keep you because college life is too much fun to ignore.
And also, anyone can only take so much politics talk before it gets depressing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not the most uplifting topic in the world. Anything you would like to say, kind of like sum it all up, or a bit of due to?
Sure. I would say to sum it up, this election was rough. A lot of people are very scared, very concerned. We lost mainly because people in cities voted less and people in rural areas voted more. So if anything, if any lesson can be taken away from that, be educated on where you vote and why, and always vote. And everything will be okay. It might not seem like it. It's been a rough week, but we'll get there. We'll recover. It's America. We'll be fine.
Exactly. We've actually, I would say, been in worse scenarios before. I mean, the Civil War, the 60s. I mean, everybody's like, it's the most divided time we've ever been. No. The 60s was like blows us away as far as divided times. Okay. The whole decade was a mess. And it was extremely interesting. A lot happened there, but talk about, oh my God. So, yeah. I agree with your sentiment. I think we're going to be okay. We will. Well, I live in Illinois, so I'm okay because my man Pritzker said that if you're going to come after my people, you have to come through me.
Baby.
Yeah, I do too. At first, I wasn't like, again, I was a member of I think it was I went for the Libertarian Party of the Green. I tried everything before I came back to being a Democrat. Whatever I was, like, I voted for him, but I wasn't really thrilled about him. And I think he's done an amazing job. Illinois is in really, really good shape in a lot of ways, not in every way. I get it. We got a budget problem. I know. Yeah, I think he's done really well. And just that states are Trump proofing themselves. That's what they're calling it. California, like Gavin Newsom, is like, no, you're not doing nothing to this state.
But I'm not being prepared.
Absolutely, I agree. And this is I mean, the Republican Party, prides themselves on being the states' rights party. Okay. Okay, let's see how that works out for you this time.
Oh yeah, because it always works out great. So just keep doing what you're doing, I guess.
Right, exactly. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Matty Winiarz, for a political science major, for coming on and talking to us for almost an hour here. That was great. That flew by. That was crazy. Yeah. So let's stay. We gave each other's numbers. Let's stay in touch, and let's we're ready. The next political thing that happens, get you back on and get your perspective as a political science major. Cool.
Absolutely. When Taylor Swift eventually becomes president, I'll be here.
That's awesome. God, she should have run. Wait, is she 35? I don't think she's 35 yet.
She's got.
She would have totally won.
That would be something. But when that happens, I'll be here to talk about it.
Okay, that sounds really good. Your mother said awesome chat. Hello, Hillary. Thank you so much. You can say hi to your mom. She's watching.
Hi, Mom.
Cool. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Let's Talk Lake County. I'm your host, David Rich. Again, special thanks to Matty Winiarz, political science major, son of Hillary Winiarz, who, again, is a recent candidate for Lake County Board. And I'm looking forward to Hillary being involved more in Lake County politics and socio-political activity and everything else, because she's a wonderful human being. You're both wonderful, and thank you again, sir. I will talk to you soon. Till next time, everybody, you take care, okay?
Have a good one.
All right, man. Thanks.